Where is it live? Just for my people are asking, so if they wanted to.
We are live right now. So we
Oh,
are.
hi.
So we're streaming live on my Bow Wow Bill YouTube channel. And if you guys have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're streaming live on the Bow Wow Bill Facebook page and the Bow Wow Bill Twitter page as well. I can tag you, John, if you want.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
On the Bow Wow Bill one. But while I do that, and I'll share this on my personal page, first and foremost, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you. Do you want to tell everybody where you're at in the world, what you're all about, what your deal is?
My name is Jonathan Katz. I've been training dogs now for almost 20 years. And I mostly travel the country giving seminars, teaching courses. And at this point in my career, I'm basically working on training trainers and making better handlers.
What got you into training dogs, man?
Yeah. What got me into training dogs? I rescued my first dog out of a kind of a frat house, abusive situation, neglect. And when I took the dog out of the abusive situation, all of his aggression came out. And I had about 6 live bites before I then said, hey, so I got to do something about this. I should be a responsible dog owner. And I hired a trainer from a franchise, and I fired the guy after maybe 4 sessions. Okay. They promised me that they were going to fix the aggression and, oh, this is no problem. We'll fix this. And after 4 sessions of like putting the dog in a sit and like walking around him in circles with a choke chain, I'm like, dude, when are we going to start? Like, the dog bit someone yesterday. Like, when are we going to, focus on the resource guarding and the dominance aggression and everything? And they're like, we don't really do that, because the person that did the eval was different than someone that actually came to do the training. So
the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Yeah. So I fired him and I said, this cannot be dog training. Started doing research, started studying on my own. And in my research, I found dog training school. And I'm originally a classically trained chef. And I love cooking. But I love cooking because I love providing joy to people through food. And when you stand in a kitchen for 12 hours a day, basically just, like all you ever do is get tickets and people come in the kitchen to tell you that you did something wrong, So there's just there wasn't enough love in it in the, in the kitchen side. I had a catering business for a little bit that I enjoyed because I would cater like small parties, weddings, like a wedding, 50 people. And I would sit there and I would serve and I'd watch people enjoy the food. And, I really enjoyed that. But working in a kitchen and trying to work my way up, you have to work in kitchens. And, like standing there for 12 hours and then someone comes in and yell at you was just not how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. And when I was in culinary school, I went to school with 2 guys that were, one guy was in his 40s and one guy was in his 50s. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing here? Everyone here is in they're 18 to 24. And they're like, this is my change of life career. And I said, change of life career. Interesting. And one guy was a lawyer. One guy was a doctor. And they're like, all my life, I always wanted to be a chef.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And I'm like, cool, crazy to give up a successful career that you worked really hard towards to then just do what makes you happy. I was like, so I found dog training, and like that was my passion. Dog behavior, rehabbing rescue dogs and finding them homes. Like, that was just, it became a passion of mine. And I went to dog training school. I went to Triple Crown, which is now Star Mark, for my first course.
Down in Austin, Texas.
I did 3 months there. And then I got home and I felt like, Tyrone Biggums, right? Is this like like I was I need more knowledge, right? So I literally turned around, went back.
Y'all got more of that.
And did a police canine course, and then tried to do some kind of crappy internships that were more of like learning what I don't want to do.
Right.
How I don't want to learn. And then I contacted one of my original mentors and I said, well, I'm struggling. I could train a dog, but I can't work with people. I don't know how to motivate. I'm going to people's houses and I'm like winging it, right? You know, like fake it till you make it, but fake it till you make it only works so much, right? You know, like the average dog trainer with limited
especially when they're
experience.
expecting results, dude.
Yes,
Hey,
they're paying you.
is your are you holding your phone or something? Because it's shaking.
Sorry, I apologize.
Can you set it down somewhere, or do you have to hold it?
I'm just like stabilizing it just to make sure it doesn't move. So I apologize.
Oh, okay, it's fine. It was just
Yeah.
shaking, so I didn't. Yeah, but you know, what's so crazy, man, is I used to be a chef too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I used to be a line cook for, and I used to work for the president of the Idaho Chefs Association in Boise, Idaho, Gordon Epperson. I've done ice sculptures, banquet buffets. Dude, I stood out with my chef's coat and watched as the CEO of Morse Knudsen flew in on his helicopter. We were all there to greet him, and then we gave him and his guests a private dinner, and that's how I met Action too. Like we were talking in my friend's glass studio, and dude, that's the one thing, man, that we cook, and we cook for everybody, man. And it's prana, it's life energy. You know what I'm saying? And then just like, you know, it's. I tell people this too. Like, I mean, life energy is broken down into like food, water, and air, right? And how long can we go without food?
Not more than well, air 2 minutes, water 2 days, food 2 weeks, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and so that's where I say people like, and that's where I try to get people to do breath work, right? Because I'm like, what do you think is more valuable to life? Because you know, we can go a long period of time of fasting and all this stuff with the food. We go a little bit long or a little bit shorter with that water, right? But we can only go a few minutes without this air. Right. And so that by itself, and whenever I start to see my clients and this is what we have to remember too, is that we're fixing problems here. And a lot of times these problems are pretty intense. Like you have 6 bites and we just had a bite yesterday. We're looking for solutions here. And a lot of times people come into a situation and just like you experienced, it's way above their pay grade. Right. As far as dog training is concerned. And I see, especially with so many powerful breeds out there, that people really, really need to step carefully sometimes with these relationships. And I want to say hi to some of our watchers here. We got Kim, and we also have the OG.
Hi, Kim. Hi, George.
George joining us, and I tagged you in this video as well, John.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to share that, and if everybody would share this, and also comment where you're watching from. I'm up just north of Seattle. Where are you at in Long Island?
Long Island, New York. Yep.
Yep. So other sides of the country here.
Yeah.
So you go back to Triple Crown, and now I know that you're a chef, man. So when we get together, dude, we're gonna have to throw down a little bit.
I would love that.
Yeah, dude, we will. I can't wait, man. I can't wait to cook for you, and that's what I love. Do you know what I love, man? Is just watching people, just get into that bliss, bro. Like not even realizing what they're about ready to experience, and they put that in their mouth, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like you can see them. You know, and or just like with Action, like I remember one day we were in Denver together, and he has a ghostwriter, this lady that follows him around, and she's been writing his books, and so it's the same voice, everything that he has. And I remember, man, like he made me this banana pudding sundae.
Oh my god!
And he was like, bro, you wait till you try this. And he takes this olive oil and just pours it all over the sundae. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? He's like, trust me. And so he takes, and I try it. It was unbelievable, man.
Epic.
Like it was like the green, like the fresh green from the olive oil reminded me of a nice, fresh.
Like a first press?
Like a like a first press. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. But it was so clean, you know, and that's all, just like with anything that we're doing here, dog training, hash making, you know, chefs, like this is refined, and there's ways that you can take this to the creme de la creme, the top of the game, dude. And that's what I'm all about with anything that I do, right? Yes. And it sounds like you are too, man. So
I found a lot of times I do things in dog training that is basically like Action putting the olive oil on the sundae, and people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just trust me. And then we do it and it works. And, you know, it's just like, yeah, it's amazing.
Well, people need to realize too is like when I take that dog, you don't have anything to do with it. That's what like it's between me and the dog, right? And if I see something that this dog would benefit from the interaction with myself, I'm doing it because it's like it's opening up the lines of communication, and I know what I'm doing. Like I've worked with these dogs many times and thousands and thousands of times, and the dogs have proven to me that I'm doing what I need to do here, right? And so that's where, like a lot of times when people will hand me the leash or whatever, not a lot of times, but I've seen it where they hand me the leash, and it's almost like, I don't know, like not about I need to get permission, but it's like I'm kind of, I don't know. Let me think about this, how to explain it, because I can't. Really...
I kind of know what you're saying, because so a lot of times when I pick up behavior mod dogs, I have the people put the dog in the crate in my van. So the transition, and they go, I don't understand. How are you going to deal with this aggressive dog when you get home? I said, it's a brand new transition.
Totally.
You're away. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. New environment. New. Yeah. This is not like you're out of the picture here, man. Like we're dealing with a different dog here. We're dealing with a dog without the influences that have triggered him before. And like this dog has a kind of a set form of rituals now because with you and the environment that it's in. But once we take him out of that environment, we're taking that dog out of that comfort zone, right? That comfort zone, regardless if that comfort is aggression or reactivity, it's still changing. And that dog, whenever they're coming out of that environment, they need to get a good grip of that, the new environment they're coming into. And that's where I come in to help tailor that perception of this new environment. And let them know as soon as they start to raise that ugly head, dude, it's not going to get to what you thought it's going to get. And I'm looking at the antithesis of what this dog is wanting a lot of times, right? And a lot of times they're just wanting to be alone. A lot of times they're just wanting to be, they're just scared. They're freaked out. That's most of them, right? And and most of the times, I'm just with them, and I just want them to experience my presence in a way that they can tolerate it without getting into a defensive drive.
For sure.
Right. And then once they experience it, I tell people repetition is the mother of learning with all living creatures. And so the first day might be kind of ugly. Second day might be a little bit different. Third day might be, a little different. And yeah, that's what I mean. It's my relationship with the dog in front of me. And I can take so much information from the handler, but I get so much more information in the moment from that dog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. It's, I used to, I trained for companies that were factories, right? Like get the dog in 2 weeks, get the dog out off leash, like, when I bring especially behavior mod dogs in, but dogs in general, I give them their own time to like adjust. Right. I give them their own time to, if I go to take the dog out of the crate and the dog doesn't want to come out, I'm not going to force the dog out of the crate. I want to show them that, like, dude, I'm here to help you. Right. Like I almost turn to the dog like I would turn to a handler and go, like, what's bothering you? Who hurt you? Like what? Let's discuss this. Let's figure out what is the root of the problem, and let's just bond. Let's get comfortable with each other. I don't need to bond like it's my dog. I need to bond as a therapist, right? And I need to bond as a communicator, as a cliche, as a spiritual guide of life, right? Like there's nothing to be that afraid of, or there's nothing to be that aggressive about,
It's observing without reaction. It's observing that which is in front of us, right? And just like the patron saint of misguided handlers, right? It's just
patron saint of misguided dogs.
Misguided dogs, that's right. And it's just kind of coming into the situation. And whenever people pay you, then it's a totally different ballgame. Because they are seeking your diagnostics, they're seeking your knowledge, right? And it's easy to go and look at somebody walking down the street, the dog's not looking at them, pulling them down the road, and but they can care less about what you have to say. It's the people that have actually turned to you and are looking for help, right? Because they have done something that is powerful, in my opinion, and that's saying, I don't know what I don't know. I'm wrong. My ego, I'm pushing down my ego to get help. Right. And to me, that action by itself is huge.
Yeah.
As an individual, as powerful as an individual.
Yeah.
And we owe it to those individuals to bring about a solution that is achievable and attainable. And also we owe it to them to bring the truth. And sometimes the truth can be brutal.
Yeah.
And so
it's like I say I'm life coach, I'm marriage counselor. Like a true dog trainer has to, like, you're controlling the environment, controlling the situation, because that's the only way that the people are going to be successful. Because if they could be successful on their own, they wouldn't need me. So, I always take the side of who's right. It could be the wife, it could be the husband, it could be whatever, like whoever in the relationship, whichever partner is correct. Or if none of them right, I'll tell them they're both wrong. Or if they're, and sometimes we have to, like a marriage counselor, we have to hear out the other partner's feeling, right? Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? What is the dog doing? What are the other people in the house doing? Sometimes I'll turn to, go to a family and I'll turn to mom and go, after X amount of sessions or whatever, I'm like, no one else here is going to help you. So like, I'm going to do this with you. But I'll say it in the room with everyone else and they'll be like, no, I'm helping. I'm like, but you're not.
Yeah.
And everyone has to be either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And once you can fix the humans mentality, I find that's the harder part. Training the dog is easy, right? Dog is, we started like, you're like, dog is animal of resource, air, water, food, affection, and sex. Like, neuter a dog, remove one, right? Air, water, food, and affection. Like 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 weeks. And then like, think about Tom Hanks in Castaway. Like, how many years did it take him to start talking to a volleyball? Right? That's why affection is such a high value drive, but everyone perceives affection differently, right? Like physical touch is not one of my love languages, right? So I have to understand that for dogs, like dogs have a love language like humans have a love language.
That's right.
Right? It's not exactly the same, but it's similar, same but different, right? Like, the dog has what they need and what they desire and what they feel. You said like, let's just be in my presence, be around me. Let's just bond from other opposite sides of the room. Like, I don't need to physically touch you to communicate with you.
That's
right? Because not everyone wants to be touched. Not every dog,
wants to be touched. And sometimes, in order to touch somebody, and I tell people, it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like me coming up and hugging your wife or whatever. We're doing something that's just, it's just inappropriate, man. And we have to learn etiquette and we have to learn how to exist in the human world. Now, you said something that I want to circle back on.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I know how to work with these dogs, but how do I work with people? And one thing that I always ask people on these live streams is, what do you do when you have a dog professional? What do you say when you have somebody that says, hey man, I work with dogs because I can't stand people?
My answer is always, I've never had a dog drive themselves to me and walk over and hand me a check.
Or a credit card,
Or a credit card. I prefer checks, but sure, I'll take credit card, like
cash.
Cash is king, right? But it's now I feel like there's a place for everyone in life. And there are places, there's very successful businesses that have board and train trainers that don't deal with clients. And they might have a person that's a gem and they're like, look, this person's a phenomenal trainer. They just have really bad bedside manner with humans. I wouldn't tell that person they can't be a trainer. I would just utilize them from what they're good at. And I would just keep them in the back of the house. Right. Like, how many chefs do you know that
come out
just, I just introduced a friend recently to Gordon Ramsay.
Okay.
And I love Gordon Ramsay.
I do too.
But their experience was only from Hell's Kitchen. And, if you look at that and you're like, well, that guy's an asshole. He's actually one of the sweetest,
Oh,
most
dude, watch
genuine
him with kids.
people.
Watch him with kids, bro. Like,
Watch him. I love watching his kids roast him
dude, so
because
hilarious.
he taught them how to be sarcastic, right?
Yeah.
And he
Well,
taught
it's
them how to communicate. And watching them, like his cooking show with his son or his daughter, like it just warms my heart. And once I realized, man, this person is really a genuine, kind person. Like, okay, it's persona versus, but how many chefs do you know you can't put? Have you ever had a plate thrown at your head?
dude, you better believe it. Not only that, but I've seen chefs fist fight
Mm-hmm.
on the line, dude. The saute cook with the broiler cook, and he just
Yeah.
had enough of this guy like disrespecting him and freaking just nailed him. Next thing I know, I got two guys that are bloodied up. We're right in the middle of the freaking rush.
And you're trying to run tickets.
And it's like, dude, what are we gonna do now? We got shit burning. We got, and it's just chaos, man. But it's just a very, very high intensity environment. And people that are in restaurants, like that's where the back of the house refers to the kitchen, where you do not see what's going on. Then even though the chef might come out to the front of the house to talk to the clients, or talk to the people that are enjoying the food, it's very limited. And the chef, like anytime my chefs would do it, they'd be like, oh god dang it, and they got to go get a fresh chef jacket on. They got to go get the stuff that isn't real, but paints the persona of a cleanly, but when you get back to the nitty gritty, dude, it stinks. It's like the grease traps are shit. There's rotten food. There's stuff that you got to get in there and smell. And dude, I remember this guy did not rotate the salmon, and I would go in there and I'm like, dude, what is that smell? And there was a salmon down on the bottom, dude, that must have been there for a couple months. And I opened that sucker up, bro, and we had to clear out that kitchen. It was so
you got to throw everything out.
Got to throw everything out. Then you got food costs, and then you got, and those food costs, man, like if that salmon, right? It really puts a dent in your food costs, and you have to think, and especially now, like the margins of restaurants, like you have a restaurant when you're successful. You don't have a restaurant to be successful, I don't think, because like a third of them are successful, like 2/3 of them fail. And not only that, but the margins, even with a successful restaurant, it's more for the experience than it is for the actual bottom line, I believe. Until you start to get into the upper echelons of the fine dining. But yeah, man, it's intense, dude. And unless you've been sitting there on the line and having people come up to you and be like, where is my where's my shit? And I've worked at a restaurant where you can't talk to any other member of the kitchen. You only talk to the chef, and you can only talk to the chef when you say chef, please, and the chef addresses you, right? And that by itself, chef, please, chef, please, chef, please, chef, and then the chef's going nuts. And anybody, that's why I like to talk to people like Kashi, or like people that are kind of outside of the fold of dog training, coming brand new into it, right? Because they see it with different eyes, and they can take problem solving from other industries and apply it, I believe. What do you think?
So for me, I take from the food industry, you're only as good as the last meal you cooked. As a dog trainer, I'm only as good as the last dog I trained.
Mm-hmm.
As a competitor, I'm only as good as the last dog I titled. Like I've titled a lot of dogs, but I still want to continue to compete because relevance is fickle, right? Like the dog training industry, just like the food industry, is a fickle industry. You're on top or you're not on top. And people forget of what you've done for them, or people forget what you've done in the past, and everyone says, what have you done for me lately? What have you cooked for me lately? So for me, the relevance of actively out there doing what I'm teaching and actively out there showing people how to do it, because I'm also in the thick of it with them, right? It's not, I titled a bunch of dogs years ago and now I'm trying to help people, which knowledge is knowledge and skill is skill and experience is experience. But, I haven't been in a kitchen in a while. Been a bunch of years. I still cater, like when I host a competition, like we just, last weekend, my club had a trial. So, yesterday, Saturday and Sunday. And when we host events, you go to a dog sport trial You're there all day. You can't go anywhere because you'll miss something. You have to wake up super early, so it's not like you're gonna like pack yourself a lunch. And most trials you get like a frozen, like a Bubba burger and like a chicken, pork, and beef hot dog, right?
Gut bomb.
And I'm not a snobby, like I'm not a foodie. I love food, but
I'm a glutton,
yeah, I'm
dude.
not pretentious about it.
Yeah, I'll eat White. In fact, I've never eaten White Castle. That's one of my goals in
I
life.
tried it once. Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, made me want to try it, and I tried it, and I like ordered a crave sack. I was not impressed. I went home, I made my own, because the idea of steaming the burger on onions, because I love onions, is amazing. But I went home, I remade it, and I made it. It was better, but
Okay.
it wasn't. Don't. Yeah. Save yourself the allure of that. It looks really interesting. It wasn't good. I wasn't excited. I know, and everyone has their own taste, but so I made Saturday. I made chicken fried rice and grilled shrimp. And like, when do
Getting
you
me
show
going
up to
here.
a trial and you get a skewer of grilled shrimp and some fresh made, chicken fried rice, So, and then Sunday I did beef and vegetable, skewer, shish kebab, and I made a deconstructed elote, like a Mexican street corn.
Oh,
And last year, so Long Island, we have really nice Long Island sweet corn, and I did it on the cob. And
no.
just watching everyone walking around with their, elote on their cob just like made me so happy. But part of the
With the
reason why
the
people come
mayo
to,
and
sorry, what'd you say?
with the cheese and the mayo and the pepper
Oh
and
yeah,
all that stuff.
cochata, tahine, the
Oh,
hot sauces. I also do I did Cheetos, so ground up like
fire
Cheetos and
Cheetos, yeah.
hot Cheetos. And this time I also did Takis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, cilantro, and I cut up fresh limes, and it's like, it just adds to the ambiance of the event. So I love cooking and I love catering. I just couldn't work in kitchens. I worked my way up to, Michelle Bernstein.
No, maybe if I
She
saw
used
her.
to be
Oh, Derek's here.
a guest judge on the show Top Chef all the time.
Okay, cool.
And so I worked up to assistant kitchen manager,
Dude,
right?
that's what's so cool about hanging with action, dude. Is like Jacques Le Pen, Michael Vartage, like cooked us dinner, dude. Like we
Yeah.
after his concert in Denver, like we went to this Italian restaurant where they just cooked all of us dinner, and then we were back in the kitchen, dude. That's what it is. It's like we're out here talking and stuff, but then we got to go back in the kitchen and cook too. And that's where we're cooking it up, and I'm slicing up, and I'm like, you got any lime? Where's your fresh black pepper? I need cracked black pepper on this, and then they're like, that's exactly what it needs. Like, it's crazy how we can come together.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that what's true about the restaurant business, what's true about the dog training business too, is that one big misstep or one big mistake, like you get a food poisoning, you're shut down, right?
Yep.
You get a video of you beating a freaking cane corso and you're shut down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to mention any names, but people get canceled pretty quick in this industry too. So it's a passionate thing but it's also that I see is you got to know what you're doing, and it's pretty obvious when you don't know what you're doing, or when you get overwhelmed, when you get into a place where you're trying to put a round peg into a square hole type of thing, and where you need to back up and be like, no, dude, there's a square around here somewhere. I need to find it, or I need to, make it. And let me see. Him and Mario Gomez can throw down together chefs galore. Awesome.
I do. I love Chopped. And when I went to Johnson and Wales, I started working my first kitchen like 13. And I went to Johnson and Wales after high school. I went to Israel for the year to a school my parents sent me, and then I came back and I went to Johnson and Wales, and it was like the classes where they gave you a recipe and they said, here, cook this. I would always modify it. And they'd always come by and they go, Jonathan, this is delicious, but this is not what we had you cook. And I'm like, but I made it better, or I made it different. And so I'd always get graded like my food was good, but it wasn't. I have trouble following, like I have trouble with conformity. I have trouble with everything tasting the same and everything being the same. Now I understand in a restaurant, 100%. I understand consistency, just like a dog trainer needs consistency. Yes. But every dog is different. Just like, to me, every meal should be different, right? I don't like to eat the same thing every day. If I ate my favorite food or I listened to my favorite song every day, eventually I wouldn't like it, right? And so then also I'd have classes where they'd give you a chop basket. And those are the classes I excelled. Because
so what's a chop basket class?
So basically, here's a protein, here's a starch, here's some vegetables.
That shit.
And basically, like, that's where I shine, because it allowed me to have my creativity. It allowed me to use my like innovation and like what my brain was telling me or what I was feeling that day. And that's what excited me. And that's the flow of dog training, is like every dog is different and every behavior is different. And like problem solving is one of my favorite things to do, because like watching the dog learn in real time is just tremendous for me, right? Yeah. I always hated the way that I was originally, like taught to train. Everything was slow. Everything, took multiple sessions before the dog would start to show progress. And now, like where I'm at, like dog is showing progress from the beginning of the session to the end of the session. Now we go back, we do a second session, we're going to go back to, like, here's the biggest thing for me. The pivotal moment in my career was when I took away all expectations out of the dog. I used to come out and I used to have a ton of expectations, and I would always be disappointed. And my disappointment would turn into frustration. And my frustration would then go down the line to the leash, to the dog. And like, it took me years. So the thing that Bart told me years ago was 2010, I was having an issue with my dog, and dog was loading really bad. Dog wouldn't, I had my PSA2, which,
what does loading really bad mean, Jonathan?
So the dog went under high levels of distraction, high stim, the dog would lose his mind. So
like in a bad way, like not directed, like the dog would just kind of get overwhelmed.
Yeah, just like glaze over.
Okay.
Want to bite. Again, I have to heal. So for PSA 3, I have to heal around, 4 guys yelling and screaming. Okay, they're just distractions. They're not allowed to step within 3 feet of my dog. Okay. Because if they get too close to my dog, if they attack me or the dog has to defend. Okay. But the dog has to learn to ignore, and like under that high level of stimulus, he would just lose his mind, like almost like a pit bull glazing over.
Yeah.
Right. Like just like
I call it velociraptor mode, or like the switch, the primal switch going off, and boom, once that thing is switched, then we're dealing with survival. We're dealing with, a totally different type of animal reactivity versus responding dog.
And I had tried everything by way of punishment, like negative reinforcement. I tried everything. I went from seminar to seminar to seminar as a dog trainer. And one of my mentors said to me, he's like, you're going to all these seminars and you're stepping in front of trainers as an experienced trainer, but you have a problem and you're showing vulnerability, and people are going to take advantage of that. And I said, I don't really care what people think. I need help with my problem. If I have to be vulnerable to get help, that's what it's going to take. It's like talking to a therapist, talking to a psychologist. Like, you have to be vulnerable to actually say what's inside your head. And I'm having a major issue. I just want the issue fixed. I don't care how, within reasonability, like, I don't care how the issue gets fixed. I just need to know how to fix it. And Bart's answer for me was, wait him out.
Okay.
And I said, Bart, we're going to be here forever. And he goes, we wait forever. Right. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is a 6-year-old dog. I have my 2. I'm trying to go into the 3s. So what I always say was, it was the answer, just not for that dog.
Okay.
And he taught, like, that pivotal moment was, I need to have patience when the dog is young so that I can communicate, because if I skip that step of patience when the dog is young, then it's very hard to do it later on in life. And once I learned to remove expectations and just basically dance with the dog, and anything, like, if I have no expectations, whatever the dog gives me is a plus, right?
That's right.
So,
Well,
the idea
expectations is the antithesis of creativity too.
Yeah.
For that dog, right? And that's where, like, I can see the luring, but that's where the operant stuff comes in, where it's like, let the dog. That's what Bart says. Let the dog do. Bill, let the dog do. That's what he says. Like, and where I want to get in and try to, show the dog what my expectations are. He's like, no, Bill. That's what he says. Let the dog do. Let the dog figure it out. We weigh them out. But they also talk about outliers. Right. And when they talk about, like, this is for the majority of dogs that we work with, but sometimes we're looking at the bell curve, and sometimes we have dogs that are outliers, some dogs that are way out here. It's not very often that it happens, but sometimes we have to realize that we're talking about the dogs in the curve. We're not talking necessarily about the dogs in the outliers. That's what Bart and Michael explained, right? You ever meet Emeril Lagasse?
I have not.
I met him once.
Yeah? Was he nice?
Oh, dude, he's like my grandpa.
He looks like...
Dude, he hugged me. I was like, bro, this is Emeril Lagasse. He was at Vice Studios, and he just come walking in the room. He was handing, he had some new device or some new cooking equipment that he was given to Action, and yeah, it was such a cool experience to meet him.
Was he nice to Action?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Action and him are tight. Do you know? Well, whatever.
You think, as if they're really tight, and this is my friend, you'd at least be nice to my friend, right?
Yeah.
Like, I like to play the game of, because I've met a few celebrities in my life, but I like to play the game of, would they, like, do I think that they're really nice in real life? Because who's a famous Alton Brown?
Alton Brown? Alton Brown? I don't know.
The chemistry science chef guy from
oh yeah.
Like,
yeah, I met him too.
Reported cases of people, like, seeing him out in public and going, like, I'm a huge fan, and he'll just scream at them, like, I'm out with my family, leave me alone,
I met him too, and guess what, dude? He was he wasn't the most warm guy,
Yeah.
He was very focused on what he was doing. He definitely wasn't interested in small talk or talk to other people. Or
whereas
whatever.
Action looks like a a buddy that I grew up with.
Dude, he's so cool,
like,
man.
Just a down to earth, caring.
He loves people.
You see how he treats his friends. You see how he treats his fans. How he interacts with people. Like, it's definitely it's something that I try to strive for. Is just like, every place he goes, people like him.
Yes.
Because he's just a nice guy.
Well, not everybody does, and he doesn't like everybody else, man. And there are certain things that, like, really set him off.
Okay.
Right? But we
all have our own triggers in life, right?
That's right. But we all know that as friends, because he's let us know. Look, dude, I don't appreciate this. I don't like this. I don't like that. But let's do that, right? And he'll tell you right away, hey, man, I don't like that. Like,
yeah.
But
you got to respect that about
totally.
a person. If you're telling me your feelings and telling me, that's my decision to change.
Yep.
Right. Well, but if you don't tell me, I don't know.
And what he said,
body language, and that's hard, Yeah,
and that's the value of communication, and just be like, hey, look, man, even though this doesn't feel good to say, knock it off, right, or whatever. It's something that it's just being honest and putting down those boundaries. And I remember one time where one of the things that he hates is, like, if somebody's FaceTiming and be like, hey, look who I'm with.
Oh.
He can't stand that shit,
No, that's not
and
fair.
So Right. And somebody did that, and he was just like, man, and I could tell right away, dude, he does not appreciate that. And I was like, hey, man, he's not here, not on display for everybody's freaking entertainment here, man. He's enjoying his time. And,
Yeah.
and you know, but that's the type of stuff that you kind of have to see as an underlying, aspect of relationships. And same thing what you were saying about how we're life coaches and marriage counselors, and you know, and sometimes I'm in that working in the dog, and we're about ready to finish the appointment, and I'm like, is there somebody upstairs? And they're like, oh yeah, that's my son. It's like, why the hell is he upstairs? How come he's not down here with us working? And they're like, well, he's not really into it. And I was like, well, you know, I try to get everybody here who's in the family that's going to be in the dog's life, so we're all on the same page, right? And this is going to be kind of maybe, I don't know, it perplexes me. Yeah. Why, you know? And I'm like, why? Or the dad and a couple of kids are up there or something. It's just the mom, and 85% of my clients are women.
100%. Yep.
85%. So almost 9 out of 10, I'm working with women.
Yeah.
And that, like, a lot of dog trainers don't realize that. Like, you have to gauge your marketing to appeal to the women, because guess what? They're the nurturers. They're the ones that are putting their household together. They're putting their household in order. And not only that, but a lot of times too, because they're nurturers, the dog looks at them kind of as a sucker.
Yeah.
And I have to come in and let them know, hey, look, man, the nurturing energy that we have is natural for us, but we're dealing with an apex predator here.
Yeah.
Right.
My favorite thing to do is teach mom about negative reinforcement.
How do you
And
do
when
that?
I'm explaining to her, she goes, that does not work. And I go, yes, it does. You get annoyed because they're not listening, and then you stop and you go to positive punishment. Right. Or you just leave. I say, I'm not going to do it.
Negative
I say, you have to, annoyance is only what's perceived. I go clean your room, go clean your room, go clean your room, go clean your room, go clean your room. And I'll just they're like, oh my God. I'm like, if they're not listening, you have to escalate, because your level of stim is not annoying enough to them.
It's not noise. It doesn't break through the noise, the chatter that they're hearing. Like you don't hear it. It's just blending in with the environment. So what do you do?
So the kids are always looking at me like, what are you teaching her? And I'm like, I'm sorry guys, but
it's
mom's in charge. Like, gotta love mom, right? That's your mom. You got to listen to her, and you don't want her to have to use punishment, right? Whether it be negative or positive. Like, if I didn't listen, my father would not take my TV away. He'd take the cord. So I had to stare at it and remind myself, like, why I didn't get to watch TV, right? You know, when I was a kid, my mother would wake me up for school. And she would come in, she'd go, Jonathan, wake up. Now, I'm not a morning person. This is why we did this interview at 1:00, right? Especially a long weekend. Like, I needed some time to rest, but she would come in the room. She'd go, Jonathan, wake up. I'm like, oh, I'm up, you know, wake up. And then eventually it would get too long. She'd come in the room. She goes, you get up right now and go to school. And I'd get up, but negative reinforcement wasn't working. She used positive punishment. The few times a year that she'd have to go out of town on business, my father would wake me up, and he'd come in the room. He'd say, wake up. If I did not get right out of bed, he would go in the bathroom. He'd fill a cup of water, and he would pull the covers over my head, and he would just drop droplets of water on my head. And I'd go, ah, right? Literally the definition of negative reinforcement. I did not understand this till I was older, of what he was doing to me. And I don't even know, like, if I actually asked him now, like, does my father understand? Like, do you know the 4 quadrants? Like, how did you know that I was going to respond to negative reinforcement and I don't respond well to punishment? Right. And so, you know, it was just like, it's almost like an epiphany of relating my childhood to, like, what I do now for a living and what I do all day, every day. You know, and how powerful, like, human behavior and dog behavior is, and how simple dogs are compared to humans, But if you can manipulate a dog, if you can manipulate a human to do what's in their own benefit, right? Like we use the word manipulation as something bad. Like to me, I was always taught it has a negative connotation. I don't think manipulation has a negative connotation. It's, are we manipulating for good, or are we manipulating for evil? Right? Are we manipulating like our clients to do the right thing, to actually like be successful with their dog? Or are we manipulating them to, like the internet trainer that's like, your dog on the bed is the devil. That dog has to sit in a crate. And I ask my clients, I'm like, well, does the dog have any issues on the bed? No. Well, why? The previous trainer said he can't be anywhere near the bed. I'm like, well, is he fine on the bed? Like, does he guard the bed? No. He goes to sleep. He gets under the covers. Does that bother you? No. Let the dog sleep on the bed. Right? I used to have a lot of always and nevers.
Yes.
And now to me, like I say, Bruce Lee said, be like water. Right? Flow, everything flows, right? Just do what the people need, do what makes them successful. Realistically, I should train a dog, and like when I'm done, the people shouldn't need me ever again. Like they always have my phone number, they can always call me, they can always ask me, but like they should be self-sufficient, right? Give someone a fish, teach them how to fish.
Well, the Bruce Lee quote is what? Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. Now you put your water into a cup, it becomes a cup. You put the water in a bottle, it becomes a water, or it becomes a bottle. You put the pot, you put it in a teapot, it becomes a teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's
I also respect the man that practices one punch 10,000 times as opposed to, I'm paraphrasing, but as opposed to the man that practices 10,000 different punches.
Dude, and that's what I tell people. Like in this industry, you can be picky, and not only that, but you can try not to be everything to everybody, because then you end up being nothing to nobody, right? And we can get into these niches, and that's why I'm interviewing dog or protection. That's why I'm interviewing bird dog hunters. That's why I'm interviewing scent dogs. That's why I'm interviewing therapy dogs. I'm interviewing service dogs. Like there's all these niches. They're an inch wide and a mile deep.
Yeah.
And instead of being an inch deep and a mile long, that to me is 1,000 different punches. But one punch 1,000 times, right? And that's what I want people to look at and view this industry as, is like I don't need to be everything to everybody. In fact, I want to be the specific thing that only a few people need, but they're going to know my value and I'm going to charge for it, right? Or this specific tasks that I train the dogs that are going to benefit so many people, right? And even if it's like searching bed bugs, right? Having beagles that search bed bugs, man, you're benefiting so many people. And there's ways that you can actually take and like go to low income housing or something and give away your services and stuff like this, where you can actually be help and it's just taking that step back and looking at yourself at what you want to do, and also the impact that you want to create in this world. And I think impact and punch, right? That's impact, right? I'm gonna see if I can find that punch 1,000 times quote. I remember I was at this golf driving range, and there was this guy there, and he was just driving balls, and he had the large bucket, and I was just watching him, and then I came back there like a week later, and the dude was there doing the same thing, and we started chatting with him, and he became like, he just got hired for an executive company, and they like to go on golfing excursions, and he had never golfed in his life. And he went out there and he hit 1,000 balls every night, man, And
How was he the next time you saw him? Was he getting better?
dude, he was like exceptional. It was like I really learned from. I mean, I learned from that.
Yeah.
It's just like this guy needs an outcome, and instead of, I mean, it was wild. But then we started to talk about, drive for show, putt for dough, right? Where the driving and that's just one aspect of this, a form of this, and then we got to the nuances of the putting, and that's a totally different ball game, right? And so once you get to a certain level, there's a whole other world that opens up for you, and then you get to a different level and the whole other world opens up for you, and that's where I think that it's wise to really, really get focused and to get into that flow. But also, people have that they do things because they want something, but they forget to set goals too.
Yeah.
Do you find that? Like,
I find that, and then I also find people also set unrealistic goals for the amount of effort or the amount of knowledge. Like, almost like you got to embrace the suck sometimes. Like, you got to embrace the fact that you don't know what you're doing, that it's going to take time to learn and get better. And it's okay, right? It's about progress, not perfection.
yes.
But, I've coached a ton of perfectionists, and I know how to motivate a perfectionist, but it's very hard for me to get them to throw away expectations. But if they can do it, then everything, like training, just speeds up exponentially. So
Dude, it's so crazy. You're getting them to throw away expectations. And guess what? You were talking about earlier, your expectations that you had on that dog and the frustration that actually got translated down that line.
Ugh.
And so now we're coming back to that. Now we're talking about the expectations that these people have that is actually a detriment to them learning, right?
Yeah.
And
It was one of my detriments, for sure, to my dog's learning.
That's right.
I corrected dogs for learning for years. I did not realize that anticipation was the sign of knowledge, right? Anticipation is a sign of learning. And once I started rewarding anticipation, like my training sped up 20 times, like it was just amazing to watch dogs learn in real time. Whereas before, I was constantly taking a step forward and 2 steps back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like it wasn't a linear experience. It was, it was almost like a graph of Jonathan sucking and doing well, right? Whereas if like it should be, like it should just go up. It should just get better,
Yeah, well, and I like what you're saying about how a good teacher becomes progressively unnecessary, right? That means that we're actually instilling and changing the person that we're teaching into, so where they are becoming an independent, self-sufficient learner that can apply the teachings, and now they're no longer in need of us, right? And in need of our guidance. What was I just going to say about the expectations? I can't remember. But dude, just so people know, like I've always had a goal in my life of playing the piano.
Okay.
Guess what I just bought?
A piano.
I did, dude. And now
are you having fun?
Well, I just got it, and the crazy thing is that I traded it 100% for dog training.
Cool.
One of my clients.
I love bartering.
Yeah, dude. I have 3 cars that I have all from dog training. I have a barn full of tools from a DeWalt Professional. Hey, look who's here, Kashi. What's up, my man?
What's up?
But yeah, I got this. One of my friends, or one of my clients here, Billy Kennelly from Kennelly Keys here in Washington. If you guys are musicians, check out Kennelly Keys. It's
cool.
Music store, and he owns it. And he has a boxer that he needs a little help with, and we just chatted it up, man. And I was like, hey, dude, I want to learn the piano. I've always had a dream of learning the piano. And this is what I'm looking at, the model that I'm looking at. Do you guys have them in stock? And he had it in stock. And dude, it's right over here, sitting right over here. And I don't really know. I don't know what I don't know. So I've reached out to some teachers, just like I as a dog trainer, like I'm assuming that this is what people would do. And not only that, but I don't even want to touch that piano because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I don't want to form bad habits.
Yeah.
And there's these stickers that you can get for the keys
Yeah.
that show you the keys. And I call my teacher and I'm like, hey, I'm going to order these stickers. And he's like, do not order those stickers, man.
It's a crutch, right?
Totally. And I'm like, done. Right. And once he explained, like, it's so hard to break after the fact, like you
He's
have
gonna
to.
teach you to ride a bike without training wheels. Why put on training wheels if you don't need it, right?
Right. And
He's
that's
gonna tell you that you're not gonna fall.
well, and the other thing is that great point about the training wheels, because that's the other thing I see with dog trainers is a lot of these dogs have training wheels on still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why the hell does that dog have training wheels on? Why are you using training stuff with this dog where we should, like, this stuff should go away? Like, just like a teacher becomes progressively unnecessary, tools need to become progressively unnecessary. Otherwise, we have what John was just saying, what the stickers are, we have a crutch.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think a lot of times people rely too much on these tools, man. And guess what? Tools, they malfunction. Tools, they don't work sometimes. Tools, they break. Tools, they come undone. Right. And the dog needs to understand the larger picture of the relationship instead of the influence of that tool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really not a morning person, but when I'm teaching, if I'm giving a week-long course, or I just got done with 5 weeks of teaching straight. I never teach in New York other than private lessons. And normally I spend all summer, every weekend I'm in a different place teaching a seminar. And basically my local people convinced me, hey, can you do some stuff here? You never teach at home. So I stayed home for a month or 5 weeks and basically taught here. Just did private courses, a few people. And even though I start at 10, but still you got to wake up, you got to take care of all the dogs, you got to get your coffee in, you got to take a shower. Like, there's a lot to do in the morning, and I'm not really a morning person. But after X amount of days of my alarm clock waking me up at 7:30, when 7:30, 8 o'clock hits, my body's just naturally waking itself up. And now if I try to sleep in, I actually almost wake up, and then I have to put myself back. I have to go, okay, I can go back to sleep.
And
But the
sometimes it
muscle
doesn't
memory
work.
of my alarm clock, like that conditioned me. That's such a powerful negative reinforcement tool, you know, is just, to me, I love the 4 quadrants, but I love my 2 reinforcers. Those are my 2 main quadrants. And, I personally don't do well with punishment. I don't learn well with punishment. And so I try
I
not
hate
to
that
teach
shit.
using punishment,
Yeah. Dude, you punish me, I'm gonna laugh in your face, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like one of those guys that is just like, dude, bring it. It's like like, I don't know, that's the attitude that happens, man. It's like, come on. It's like it invokes kind of like a divisive type of answer, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times. How do you explain the 4 quadrants? Like, in a nutshell.
So I'll put it in the order that I put it in. Positive reinforcement, the application of a positive stimulus to increase the likelihood of a behavior, goes hand in hand with negative punishment, the removal of that positive stimulus to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. Negative reinforcement, the removal of an annoying stimulus to create and shape desired behavior. And positive punishment, the application of a painful stimulus to decrease the likelihood of a behavior.
That's right.
I put my positive reinforcement at top left, my negative reinforcement at bottom left, negative punishment top right, and positive punishment bottom right. I put my punishers, on the right, and my reinforcers on the left. And I also actually draw it out as R plus P plus. Plus R P. Minus R, because R plus, right, in science. But if we're talking about it, it's positive reinforcement. The way that I explain it to people, the easiest way is you're just adding or subtracting. This is math. Yes. Perfect.
So we got the reinforce. Well,
no.
it's split.
Switch negative and positive punishment.
So it's
negative punishment. I want it sitting up right
it's
next
split.
to negative reinforcement, next to positive reinforcement.
So the negative reinforcement. So here,
Yep. So just switch the pluses for the P's.
the pluses for the P's. Oh, okay. So the positive. Okay, so it'd be plus R, negative R, but there'd be P plus, P minus. So
Negative, yeah, minus P.
Would be minus P. Okay.
Yeah. Because when we like positive reinforcement, positive is your plus sign, R is your reinforcer, you know, negative P, it makes more sense to me, and it makes more sense to explain it, I find, to people as, oh, it's just math. You're just adding or subtracting something the dog likes or doesn't like.
That's right.
And then the reason why I write it out in that direction, because positive reinforcement and negative punishment go hand in hand, and then positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement go hand in hand, and then negative reinforcement and positive punishment kind of go hand in hand because those are our adversives. So as we go around the four, like they should touch each other, they should be next to each other, because those are the puzzle pieces that work together, right?
That's
to me.
right. Well, and people hear positive and negative, and they just think that it's positive and negative, or I have to remind them, no, positive means adding something, negative means taking.
Not positive as we perceive it as good, positive
right.
as we're adding.
Right. And that's it, you know, and it's not, because positive can be a very wobbly term, right? And people have taken, especially in the positive movement, and ran with it to appeal to emotion, where they don't really have a good understanding of all the quadrants, and they don't realize too that they are using all quadrants. It's just that it's on a different degree.
Yeah. You know? So anytime someone comes to me and tells me they're a positive only trainer, my first question to ask them is, you don't use any negative punishment? And their response always is, no, I don't use punishment. I go, so when the dog doesn't listen, you still give the dog cookie? And they go, no, I withhold. I go, that's negative punishment. You don't understand. Like, you're talking about things you don't understand. You can't classify and categorize yourself as something that you don't understand. That'd be saying, like, I'm Catholic or I'm Christian, like I'm Jewish and I know nothing about Judaism. Like, that's ridiculous, you know? So, and I've honestly met more positive only trainers that own an e-collar and they used it once for their dog to not run away, but they won't use it on their clients' dogs. But one of my favorite things to do as a dog trainer is to, like, take people from the positive only side and move them to the balanced side, which is a, you know, it's such a gray area, because, like, what is balance? What, like, my percentages of my quadrants is, I'm like 80, I would say 70% positive reinforcement, 20% negative reinforcement, and then like 5 and 5. Okay. And that's how I break down my ratios. So, like, that's my balance, but some people might use, you know, like people that are using more operant conditioning are using more negative punishment, right? So and I really don't use much negative punishment. Whereas, because I'm luring everything, I use more, I classically condition to the point of operants.
Well, and the thing is too, is that so an example of operant conditioning used in negative punishment would be the dog refuses food, the restaurant closes, dog gets put away. Mm-hmm. Right. And everything stops. And that's now a negative punishment because things that have gone away. And you know what, I want to look for different, because balance to me, and I know that it's used thoroughly in the dog training world, but to me, balanced doesn't speak to stability. Like, it speaks to teetering.
It's unbalanced.
That's right. And so that's where I'm like a stable trainer. That's where I try to be like, I'm a grounded, or I am, you know, I utilize every equipment and all that stuff. But just to me, because of balance, always like, I don't want to balance. I want to be firm where I stand. And that's where understanding comes from, is to stand under, to know something so well that you're confidently standing under it and be like, yeah, I know what this is. I have full confidence in what I'm doing here. And so I'm looking for a different word or different camp to put, you know, just understanding foundation. Yeah, but I get it. Balanced is what we use now. And
it's just, again, general industry terms that it's just the best term that I guess we could come up with as an industry.
That's right.
Because anything else would be way too complicated for the average person to understand. Because if you're trying to sell yourself as, I'm balanced, meaning I use everything, or I I'm in the middle gray area of, too much compulsion or too much positive reinforcement, right? Like there's no balance in the balance, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where and we had a wonderful, wonderful time. And Clubhouse is this app where it's an audio only app, and at the beginning of it, it was like this invite only. But I went into this app, man, and there were so many dog trainers there, and so many like positive only dog trainers and balanced dog trainers, and we all got together and we talked, man, and it was something that was amazing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing, because what these people found out is like, dude, the last thing I ever want to do is hurt a dog.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And the last thing I ever want to do is like, confuse a dog. In fact, just like you were saying about like, I used to correct it until I realized, antithesis and to reward that. How do you come to terms with mistakes that you've made in the past, John, with these dogs?
I mean, going back to when we originally started talking, like, I treat it the same way as I treat my childhood trauma. Okay. Like take it and use it as body armor. Take it and use it to make yourself better. Like remember why do we read history books? So that so hopefully history doesn't repeat itself.
That's right. Those that don't know history are doomed to repeat.
And the reason how I explain myself is my skill as a dog trainer is not necessarily to not make mistakes. It's my ability to realize I'm making a mistake in real time and changing it. Right? Like I have a new puppy, and he is a grandson of my dog Uzi. And Uzi was extremely difficult to train, and I made so many mistakes on that dog. And thank God his resilience and his drive and his confidence like helped me through all of it. But I made so many mistakes because that dog is processing like a supercomputer, and I'm over here like trying to boot up the modem. Oh, someone picked up the phone and now you cut me off. I was trying to download a song, right? Like I was not learning in that real time. And now his grandson is my do-over, right? His grandson he has very similar temperament, and I'm doing all these interesting things with him to be able to communicate with him and have control over him using no adversives. He's 7 months old. He's only ever worn an e-collar just to like wear it to have fun, to go out and do bite work or go on a trip, or I want him to associate it like he associates his leash or his harness, right? Like this is something good. This is our tool of freedom, right? But I don't want to put it on him and right away for him to feel any stim. It's going to be months before he'll feel any stim. He'll get stim when he's ready for stim because he asked me for it, because like my motivation, my positive reinforcement is no longer my primary motivator. It will then become my secondary motivator or my reinforcer, whereas the negative reinforcement will be that initial reinforcer. That's my primary, right? But I want to try to keep him as long as I can without doing that, because if I could train using only positive reinforcement and negative punishment, I would. But it's unrealistic. Like we have to create muscle memory of conditioned responses to high levels of stress, right? And so like I'm doing these exercises with him, like I'm having him bark at me as opposed to barking at other people. And I rewarded the behavior. So he would come out and I could have all these people around, I could have all these distractions, and just be sitting there going, rah, rah, rah. And then once I created that behavior, now I stopped rewarding it. And once he would give me that attention, I would then, like lure him into a down and pay him for the down. But if I have him, and I had one day, it was an awesome session. I wasn't planning on ending the session there, but he heard a dog or a sound outside my yard. Someone else at club was grabbing a dog, and I could see he picked up his head and he looked and he was listening and he was looking, and then all of a sudden he turned around and he went rah, rah, and started barking at me, and I fucking click, jackpot. And I put him away, because the fact that the distraction pushed him into the engagement on me. Now, the engagement isn't quite calm engagement. It's a little bit of aggression engagement, but it's engagement.
Yeah.
And I know that this dog's going to be difficult. And I know that I'm going to, like, I don't want to say fight him, but battle him at some point because of all that drive that I'm building, right? Like,
He's a strong ass dog.
You know, I always equate my Malinois to a race car. I'm building my engine. I build my engine. I build my engine.
Like
you know, you can only get so much power through a naturally aspirated engine. Meaning you can only get so much speed and intensity using positive reinforcement. My e-collar's my turbocharger, right? Like my e-collar's my supercharger. Like I want, double pro chargers on my, like on my drag car. But obviously I have to have the brakes, and when I have a car that fast, it has to have a parachute in the back and
redundancies. Like you need to have safety redundancies. You need to have not only that, but communication centers built within that. This engine's not going to blow itself up, that it has vents, it has different types of functions that is not going to allow it to destroy itself, right? And same thing too, like you as a handler have to know how to drive that too, right? And it's also the positive reinforcement time schedule. That's where people like, I want to only positive reinforce my dog, and it's like, man, do you have 3 years? You have to like this behavior will be, in this allotted amount of time, if we do not have any type of positive punishment, but we do. It's just that it's those are the turbochargers, right? But it's also, we also have to have like that blueprint of when those turbochargers are going to be fired up, right?
Yeah.
And how we can learn the function of that race car as well. Do you know Nelson Hodges? Here, he was just in here, but he's got to run. He's down in Texas.
Okay.
He's awesome, dude. You got to learn from him. He's got the Canine Human Communication Center down there.
Oh, cool.
But he also teaches race car drivers, and he's also an architect as well.
And he's a Renaissance man.
And he's a freaking. You should hear him on the guitar, dude. Like he's amazing. So
I can only play. I was relating to you learning the piano. I can play "Tainted Love" on the guitar like no one's business, but that's it.
Yeah, isn't it funny how we'll get into these songs? And that's what I don't want to do. Like I don't want to be the one that dictates my experience because I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. I know what I like based on the limited experience that I have, but I don't want that to be what drives me to learn from this because it's very limited. And one of the things that we can, first and foremost, like I was saying earlier, with our clients coming to us and laying down their ego and being like, hey, I need help here, right? That is huge. And when that's huge, man. And whenever I hear, like I've been through 4 dog trainers, I've been through 5 dog trainers, I'm just like, dude, I'm sorry, man. Like this industry
makes me sad.
Yeah, because it's an emotional, people prey on others' emotions and they actually cause more damage and get paid for it because they are they're in the emotional arena. People are 10 times more likely to act based on emotion than they are on pure intellect. That's why Procter & Gamble, all these big companies, they want to get their products viewed in the emotional light, and so people are they'll buy them over and over again. We have an emotional connection with these dogs. We're in the emotional arena. And these people that are stepping out to get help, we owe it to them as professionals to provide that help that is real. And that's where it pisses me off when people have been through 4 or 5 trainers and they have come out of pocket a significant amount of money. And I just, that's one of the reasons why I do these live streams, is so people can meet true professionals and know what it sounds like when we interact and engage with each other. And one of the most powerful things that people can do is lay down that ego to ask for help. But another most powerful thing that we can do as individuals is say the 3 words, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And that, especially there's a lot of egos. Dude, there's a lot of egos in dog training world, but there's a lot of egos in bite world, especially in bite sports. And that's where, like, even when I was speaking to Dr. Ravi Iyer, I was like, what do you attribute you getting into the bite sports? What do you attribute the popularity of bite sports? And do you know what he says? Ego.
But I feel like in life that could drive many people to do many things.
Totally.
Right? You know, the average handler that I meet or trainer that I work with that wants to do dog sports, that wants to do protection sports, it's because they just want to have fun with their dog, and that's the venue that they decided on. Now, with that said, yes, there is a ton of egos, like dog training in general, but protection sports now, or think about police canine trainers, personal protection trainers. Like we're dealing with definitely there's an adrenaline element,
Intensity.
There's like the dog, we're going to train this dog forever to then perform a job that's really difficult. And like, do we properly prepare this dog for a job, or do we rely on our ego for the dog to then be successful? Like I was talking to a handler at our trial. The handler made a mistake, okay, and we never learn from our successes, we learn from our failures. And he was a new handler and he made a mistake. And I said, well, how many times have you practiced that scenario? And he said, once, because the dog does it really well. I said, but man, you don't do it that well, you need more practice. Right? The dog does it well, but sometimes we have to run through this just for the handlers, because the dog's moving so quickly and the dog's learning so quickly. But as humans, like, we're not able to process like they're processing because of their simpler minds. Like, they're more focused. We have a million things going on, right? Like, there's 18 things in my head right now, right? Like, I don't have the ability to shut, like, at times when I'm focusing on dog training, like, part of my ADHD, why I love dog training, is it gives me something to focus on. And sitting there just watching dog behavior is so fascinating to me. Watching people's movements. And that's why I really got into, like, my specialty is, that's why we can relate so much, is what you do, like behavior modification. For years, like, I started rescuing dogs. I started like rehabbing dogs. And I was like, man, like, there's not a lot of trainers out there that have the skill set to truly rehab these dogs, because I was originally taught like dominance theory,
alpha rolls, and
like the alpha rolls, not bagels, right? Like, it's like, I can't, like, I cringe when I think about the mistakes I've made, but those are part of my body armor. Those are part of the things that make me better and make every dog better. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
right. You have to be willing to suck, man. You have to be willing. Just like when I go to this piano, dude, it sounds like shit, but it's not forever. And just like, and that's where, seeking out guidance and getting that help. But we have a question here. Do you think bite sports are changing more with women involved? Kim asks.
For sure. I love seeing more women involved. Again, like, you deal with a lot of misogyny in every industry, but especially in bite sports, because the average protection trainer, like the average decoy are male, right? But I have trained a ton of female decoys. I've had female apprentices that I taught to decoy. Like, to me, it has nothing to do with someone's gender, right? It has to do with someone's passion and their skill set. And they're like, when it comes to like getting bit by dogs, like, there's a physical element involved.
Even
like,
with the bite suit on, dude, like, I've had bruises on my thigh, like, even with bite suits on.
So, and like, I'm not a physically, I'm not like an athletic person. I am smart, but I had to figure out where my body was and how to move and flow. And, after, like, I've been decoying since, I don't know, 2005. Like, what is that? Like 17 years of being inside of a dog's mouth. And people are like, oh, you make that look easy. And I'm like, do you know how fucking long it took me to get this, like, to get to the point where now it looks easy, right? That now that it's muscle memory. But to me, like, I love seeing, to me, I find a lot more handlers are female, than male handlers. Like there's the different element of, we get into protection dogs because we like the idea. We want a dog that'll protect us. I'm a libertarian. I believe that gay couples should be able to protect their marijuana plants with assault rifles.
That's right.
Okay, don't tread
simple.
on me.
Yeah.
Like nothing that like if as long as what you're doing doesn't involve me and doesn't hurt me, I think you should do and live your life. But like I'm sitting right now, they're not here, but like I'm Halle Berry in John Wick Parabellum. Like I have 2 trained protection dogs and I'm a big guy and I got a house full of guns, like, but still, like I have protection dogs for a reason. And, I actually train a lot of protection dogs for survivors of assault. And I have a dream one day of starting a non-for-profit, like providing protection dogs to survivors. And I got into protection sports because it's fun. It's a way for me to test my training, but you can't really test your training as a protection dog trainer. Like, what am I going to do? Go out there and like pay homeless people to take bites from my dog? Like, I'm an empath. That would hurt me. But people do that. Right? My being an empath hurts me and helps me. Yeah. Because it helps me because I can feel people's emotions, but it also hurts me because I can feel people's emotions. Right? And, like I'll tear up when someone tears up because like I can feel the emotion that they're expressing. And, like it's hard. I have a club full of super dedicated club members, but we're getting ready. We're a month out from trial and people are getting stressed. And it's my job to calm them down. It's my job to talk them through it. It's my job to relax them. But if you think that I can't feel all of their emotions that are in their head, like I feel it.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's just about like me absorbing it and then using it to, like counter condition them that, you've been training, you work hard. The dog's going to do what you tell them to do. And all their dogs did great.
Well, it's part of the process.
What
too,
if
man.
is the what if, like, I'm going to train my protection dog for years. Hopefully my dog never gets a bite. But the day that I need my dog to bite, like, how do I know that the dog's going to bite? The first time that like police dogs get a bite on the street, they've never felt flesh before. The first time they put teeth on flesh, a lot of dogs will let go. Now, from there, I've seen dogs like let go and go, this is delicious. It's like the first time you ever had some Wagyu, right? Like Wagyu with some flaky salt. Like, you're like, why do I need to put all this salt on this? And I'm like, the salt was the best part, right? Like the texture and the taste and how it made, like the dog, you don't know. But we can do all of these deconditioning. We do hidden equipment. We do muzzle work. We do civil work with no bite, but the desire and drive is in the dog. Like I believe everyone that wants a protection dog should have a protection dog. But just because your dog bites a suit doesn't mean your dog's going to protect you with a guy not wearing a suit.
Yeah.
But
it's just like my gun, dude. I have a concealed carry, and never. Well, I've never used it. I've used something.
Thank God.
Thank God, but thank God I got it. You
know
what I'm saying? And just
two
like
is one and one is none, right?
I remember when I was going into the hood, dude, down in Riverside, California, and I didn't have my gun. And I felt like on edge, bro. Like it was weird. Like I was just like, and I mean, I was in the hood, dude. Like these guys hired me, and I'm walking, and I'm like, whoa, like this is real stuff, man. This is like, and I helped them out with some of their dogs, but I'm like, get me the frick out of here, man. I should have qualified these clients a little bit better, but dude, that's where it's like just that security of having it, and I could tell when people are armed too, because they touch it, they touch and they, or even they'll bend over. I'll be like, hey, your buddy's peeking out.
You're printing.
Yeah, you're showing. And, but it's no problem, dude. I'm so used to being around firearms, and it's just our culture here in America. But it's also, I never want to use it, dude. But you're damn right. I carry like Dave Champion. My buddy's like train, carry. It's not just about me having a gun and knowing it's okay. It's like, no, I have some tactical training that I've done, and I do it over and over again. And it's that muscle memory of grabbing and over and over and over and over and over and over, man, until you do have that muscle memory. And then, but even that, dude, like I know, like if it had to happen, man, like I just know that hesitancy is there. Like unless somebody was like coming through my house or somebody coming up my driveway or some shit like that, it's like if it was on my property. But if we're in a neutral territory, if we're out in public, like I'm also looking where that bullet's going. I'm looking where I'm backed up, if I can get behind cover, if there's a dumpster or something around me. Like I'm always keeping aware of my environment. Anytime I go into an open space, I'm always knowing where the exits are. Always, right? And that's just kind of second nature for me. But that's just like you're saying, man, like preparation is a lot different than game day, dude. Like when right? And we don't know what happens until it happens. And we kind of look and we have to process that information too. But yeah, it's still just pretend, man, until we get into a real world training situation. I've seen people on YouTube use flesh, like having dogs bite on them, on their arms, dude. And it's, to me, I just...
But here's the problem. Anyone that's giving... Look, there are people out there. I had a mentor when I used to work for the Israeli government, and the guy was the foremost tracking expert in Israel. Okay. He had gone on deployments to Turkey for... earthquakes and things like that, and he gave puppies live bites. Up until 6 months, he would just give them bites on his forearm, and I'm like, dude, you have to explain this to me. It doesn't make any sense. He goes, I work them till they're 6 months old on flesh, while they just have little needle teeth.
That's even worse.
So he's bleeding. He'll work like 10 puppies, and his arm would be gushing blood. But like, he doesn't have to go to the hospital. He's kind of just got to clean his arm, and he'll be okay. He goes, and then I just give them sleeve bites, like a Schutzen sleeve. He goes, I know they'll bite flesh because the whole beginning of their life, they've always been taught to bite flesh. It's the most interesting concept I'd ever seen. I don't choose to do it, but it makes sense to me. I get it. But
how does his dogs perform?
Dogs perform really well.
Okay.
Anti-security dogs, and they perform well, but it's like anti-terrorist, sorry. But the dogs were good, but they're, again, like, there's so many different roads. I do a trip once a year to California.
Okay.
Right? Like from New York, I can take 10 different routes to California. I take the northern route and I come back the southern route is my choice. But like, we're all going to get to the same destination, but we have to drive in the right direction.
That's right. And you don't need to see the whole destination in front of you, dude. Even when you're driving at night or whatever, and during the day, you can see maybe like 5 miles in front of you, even though you're going 2,500 miles. Yeah. And even at night, we're only looking at like 100 feet in front of us. You don't need to see the whole destination. You just need to see what's in front of you at that time and what you're working with. You're still going to get there and keep our eye on the big prize of heading in that direction, but it doesn't need to be apparent the whole process. In fact, that's where I have to stop my clients, and they're like, well, why does he do that? And I'm like, we're not going to talk about that right now. We're focusing on this, right? We'll get there. Mm-hmm. Your question is valid, and your question is actually a really good one. But we're focusing on this aspect right now of the training. I don't want to overwhelm you. And I know from experience, like if I give you too much information, that you're going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to know what to do. And so I have to stick with this narrow, do this, do that, do this, and don't worry about any of this stuff. Just focus on this. And I will do a readiness test to make sure that they're ready for the next set of teachings, right?
Yeah.
That's just how I do it. But yeah, a lot of times they come with a lot of questions and a lot of problems, and and I tell them too, like, look, when we get to about a month and a half, about 7 weeks into this, then that's when our problem solving situation happens. Like, bring me all of this stuff, your separation anxiety, the bolting, the even house breaking, chewing on stuff. And do you know what happens at 7 weeks? None of that shit is present anymore because the structure
because you changed the dog's behavior, because they were they were residual negative behaviors from a greater manifestation of a greater problem.
Miscommunication, essentially,
Yeah.
right? And that's it. It's like, okay, bring me your problems. What do you have? And I tell people, I remember you asking me about that separation anxiety, and they're like, haven't dealt with that for a month,
I love
right?
it.
And they're like, well, I remember you talking about your dog bolting from you or whatever. Are you still having that problem? Not at all. In fact, we actually have tried to get him to bolt from us, and he won't do it. He's just like what your dog did when he looked at that other dog and boom, locked in on you.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want those dogs to look at this distraction in the world as a test to pay attention to me.
Yeah.
You know, and when I see that, that's when I know. And those eyes on me are huge. Like, I want those eyes on me.
Yeah.
Like, I need those eyes on me. I tell people that dog can smell me, and I got a big old scab on my nose here. But the dog can smell me. The dog can sure as hell hear me, but that dog hasn't looked at me, is focused on whatever the hell they're looking at up here. Their awareness is way down the block or way out in the field where I need that awareness with me right here, right now. And a lot of times, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say auditory and visual exclusion.
Say
like that auditory or visual exclusion, like dogs staring at something, they're not hearing you. If dogs staring at you, then they're hearing you.
That's right. That's right. And if that dog hasn't looked at me for quite a while, and that's what I tell people, I'm like, because I work in houses and homes with family dogs, I'm like, and a lot of times we're in the city and I'm watching dogs walk by, and I'm like, do me a favor, let's watch this dog. And let's watch how often this dog turns and looks at their handler. And then we'll be like, they're like, whoa, never. He never looked at him. No. I was like, now let's watch that dog. And the dog's just walking along. Their awareness is way out here, not behind him at all. Right. And so then I ask, what do I want on me? And they say, eyes on me. Right. And if that dog hasn't paid attention to me, that's my indicator. Like, look, dude, we need to do something here to show that dog that maybe you should be paying attention to me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good idea to look at me. Maybe that's a good idea to know that I'm here and to acknowledge me. You know, but it's also, do you know what? I have a goal, John. I want to title a dog.
Oh, cool. Never what?
I want to do PSA.
Can I help?
Yeah, I want you to.
Let me help.
But it's in a few years from now, you know, but that's
okay. You let me know when. I'd love to help.
Yeah, that's what, as somebody that I've never done this, you know, and I've been through, you know, a bunch of these schools, but I've never really done it for myself, right? Yeah. Where I want to get a puppy, but I have too many dogs for it right now. And that's where once these dogs, you know, go to heaven or whatever, you know, happens when I'm in a place, I definitely will be hitting you up.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
And that's what I want, man. So tell me the difference. Why are you, when I said PSA, you're like, hell yeah, man. Like, why are you stoked on PSA?
It's just, man, I love puzzles, and it's just such a difficult puzzle. And it's the most difficult protection sport in the world by way of pressure. So think about like in Belgian ring, the pressure comes from the environment. Okay. Meaning that the dog has to go through water, over tires, through a bottle curtain. And then when they're biting, they're just biting the arm or the leg, and they're just up with the stick, and they're just basically standing there moving their arm. In French ring, the stress is not from the environment. There's only cones and planters out there. All the stress is from the man, from the decoy. Okay. In PSA, we require stress from the decoy and stress from the environment. So like at PSA 3, I have to send my dog find their way into a room. We call it a room of doom. They have to find their way into the room, and there's 4 decoys in the room. One's got a leaf blower. One's got a chainsaw with the blade taken off. Another guy's got trash can lids, and the other guy's got a bucket of water. That dog has to choose to bite one. It could be any one of the 4, and now take pressure from all 4. Meaning you're requiring a lot of that animal. There's only 31 dogs in the world titled to PSA 3.
Really?
So the difficulty of and the complexity of it is what excites me the most.
So
I don't
found
want to
this.
do what everyone's done, right?
Let's
I
see
don't
what
want to do, like I love Schutzen. I think it's awesome, but like there's hundreds of thousands of Schutzen 3 dogs in the world since the
yeah.
beginning of Schutzen, right? Like, you know,
Well, and Schutzen was originally like a behavioral temperament test for breeding.
it's a
breeding
breeding
suitability.
certification, yes.
Right, suitability test, right? That's
But
how it
obviously
started.
humans are competitive animals,
That's right. That's the ego,
and
right?
so automatically they're going to turn it into a same thing. KMPV was just a police dog test,
Right.
and now they have championships, and like the competitions and points. So and then it's an American bred sport.
Yes.
I'm proud to be an American,
Amen.
and like I do the sport of, if I lived in Belgium I would do MVPK. If I lived in Holland I would do, and I do KMPV. Like, to me this is the sport of America. It's the longest running American sport, American protection sport. A lot of sports have come, a lot of sports have gone, but like we are growing exponentially. I go to India in 2 months, and I'll be there for 3 weeks.
Can you see the screen here?
This is a muzzle attack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the dog has to perform muzzle work. We do muzzle work with protection dogs and police dogs. If the dog will come in and hit a guy in the muzzle, like dog has no concept of muzzle, and if the dog will go in and engage on someone with no equipment, then that's the sign that the dog will bite for real. So this is actually an obedience. Never seen this routine, but this is obedience. So the beginning of obedience was you had to send your dog for a muzzle fight, meaning the dog never gets any satisfaction of putting teeth on a suit. Now you have to send your dog. Is this obedience? No, this is protection. Okay, now he's sending to a Rumadoon. You got boxes, you got tents. There's so many variables. There's so many different pictures. Now we know what our core behaviors are, but we don't know the variation. Literally every trial is Missy Elliott. Like, put the thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
It's like that. No. Dude,
this is a handler. She's going in and helping her dog.
Okay.
Right. I don't know. Again, I don't really have much context.
Yeah, we don't hear it or anything. I just pulled this up.
Send the dog into guard and then transport out. So dog escort. This is cool. I'm doing like a play-by-play. This is fun.
Well, dude, and this does something to my soul.
No, I like this. I like that you gave me video as reference.
Yeah. When I'm watching this stuff, man, I could watch this all damn day, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, like what's going on? And so she's, damn, this is so cool, man. This is what I want to do, dude. Like, yeah. And I just want to have one dog.
Yeah.
That's it.
To me, the perfect amount of competition dogs is one.
Yeah. Bart
I see a very, very, very common mistake that young handlers make is they're like, oh my God, dogs are like potato chips. Right. Like I have to eat more than, like, whoever eats one potato chip, right?
It's a damn impressive dog, right?
But they're not like potato chips. They're like living, breathing animals that need attention, and you only have X amount of time in the day to train them. Every extra dog you add to your training program is now time away from dog number one.
Damn right. And that's what people need to realize. Like, more dogs you get, the less time you're going to spend with the dogs you have.
It's like kids.
Do you know what those decoys were doing just now? Like I think they were having like a little powwow there, right? Right where she.
Let me see. Go back. Yeah.
Oh, whoops! Here they're talking right here. So they're probably planning on the next.
Or they could be discussing with the judge what the dog did in the tent. Because
the judge wasn't there.
The judge can't be anywhere near the tent for safety reasons.
Right, because he can get a bite. He's not wearing a suit.
So, it could be because the decoys play out the judge's vision. So the reason why PSA 3 is so difficult is you don't know what you're going to see until you hit the field that day. Meaning we go through a handler's meeting, like in ring sport, it'd be like a dog in white. So you do a walkthrough of what the dog needs to do, but the dog's never done it before. So cool. It's all about you taking what behaviors you taught your dog and in what context, and then actually playing it out.
guard and hold, or
Okay, so now she sent a guard, and now transport.
to me, this stuff is real world applicable.
Oh, for sure.
Applicable.
Applicable.
Dude,
100%.
applicable.
You'll hear a lot of people in the police canine community saying a dog with PSA 3 neutrality is too much neutrality.
Wow, look at that.
Now, I disagree, because if the dog will go into the tent and bite the 4 guys, obviously they're biting one, but taking pressure from 4 guys, like if he can only get through like I can take a pet dog through a PSA 3 obedience routine because the dog has no desire to bite. It's balancing the dog's desire to bite versus desire to listen to the handler. But PSA was created by police canine trainers. When a police canine handler puts his dog in the back of the patrol car for the day, he has no idea what he's going to see that day. He could take the dog out 10 times to go potty and do nothing, or he could be tracking an armed suspect through the woods, like for 3 hours straight.
Who takes off running on the way back to the car. Just
Exactly.
Like that, right?
And adrenaline is a very powerful thing.
And you smell it. Like that's what
Yeah.
like, you can smell it, dude. I smell it when somebody's like, if I'm in a situation where I know somebody's adrenaline, I can smell it on them, dude. It's not that good of a smell. So what's going on here? We got a car. She went down in the back seat.
Yeah, so she probably placed the dog in the vehicle. You stay in the vehicle. Now they're going to come by and distract. They're not being aggressive. They're just being active. Yeah. Right, and she told
menacing
the dog to stay.
Almost, it's like, oh, this
Now
stuff.
I always teach my dogs, if you get physically assaulted, like someone attacks you, you bite. So now she's recalling,
and then now they
run off. These 2 guys get in the car. I'm assuming she probably has to like send back for a bite now. Yeah, so now you have to send the dog to then go apprehend the suspect in the vehicle. They might stay passive, meaning you might send the dog to bite and the guys don't move, right?
Passive, yeah. He's saying, come to me. So now he's escorting.
Yeah, or send to guard, transport. So if you look, they're demonstrating a lot of control, a lot of non-biting. Because we know the dog will bite. It's a lot of non-biting exercise, but in the context of biting. Like send to guard and then escort back, no bite. Send for a bite for a call-off, no bite.
So we got these 2 gentlemen here. One guy's on the right with the blue, and one guy's on the black with the black shirt lady there. Are those judges?
So you have a steward that is in the blue, that is a steward to the right. And then you have the judge just crouched down to the left with the black shirt.
What just happened there? Let me
think
do this one.
The other person's like an apprentice judge.
So check this out. So what just happened here? Watch what she does with her dog.
So let's see.
They take off running. She sends them, and then I think she calls them off of a bite here. Right. Boom.
Yeah. So the what she was probably told is at that cone, she's allowed to call the dog off.
Okay.
So they're running away. Now she turns. She has to send to the right. Send for a bite, and that is a bite. Oh, decoy lost their hat. And drive.
Dude, I love this, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. Again, the 31 dogs in the world is not from a lack of people trying, right? Yeah. And then also in those 31, it's only 26 handlers, 27 handlers?
Okay.
Because the creator of the sport, Jerry Bradshaw, he has 3 PSA 3s. His main apprentice, Janet, has 2, and I have 3. Well, so it's amongst 3 people, that's 8 dogs.
Wow. And those 3 people I want to learn from, man. One of my apprentices went through Tar Heel.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
A few years ago. And that was the first Malinois I've ever had.
Okay.
And that was like, well, it wasn't mine, it was my apprentice. But dude, I've never ever seen a dog like run after, like I call the dog and the dog's running halfway across the room before they're even awake.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, oh, so they have a trailer out there now too.
Yeah, so that could be another room of doom.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a room in the house.
No,
It can
it's
be
a
just
tent, it's a trailer. If I have a building, so like sometimes people's training fields have like a building next to it. I
yes.
can also, as the judge in the threes, I can use the building too for building searches. So this is probably a search. Find your way in. They're distracting.
How many decoys do you have typically at an event like this?
We had this weekend at my club's trial. We had nine, I
Nine
think nine
decoys.
decoys.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm not really interested in becoming a decoy.
No, you're fine. It's
Yeah.
look, I decoyed for many years. I gave up my trial certification when I became a judge because I was, they're like, look, you're more useful. We have, I don't know, close to 200 certified decoys, and I think we only have 12 judges for the world.
There we go. That was pretty
But
cool.
again, it's very hard to become a judge only because you have to have like shown in the twos. Most of the judges want to have threes before they do it. And just because you have a level 3 dog title doesn't mean that you necessarily qualify as a judge, because
Wow.
we've denied people that wanted to be judges just from like showing unsportsmanlike conduct, like getting excited when like I'm waiting for my critique, and the person found out on deck, like the person that competed before me found out that the judge gave them the wrong score when they re-added it, because it happens, we're human beings.
Yeah, of
They
course.
added, and the person really passed, and on the sideline the person starts jumping up and down and screaming, and I'm like, look, I'm being honorable and sitting here with my dog waiting for my score. Like, you scream to yourself silently.
Yeah.
You don't make a spectacle over that you're happy that you passed, right? Like we say, you win and you lose with grace,
I love that.
right?
It's integrity,
you know
dude.
if someone hands you a trophy, you say thank you, you shake their hand, you appreciate it, and you come back and you have this like awkward smile on your face, right? Like, hey, I did good. But you don't start screaming and you don't make a big deal about it. It's part of, to me, sportsmanship is so important, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's the
integrity.
pinnacle of I'll take someone that, like took a loss on the chin than someone that passed that wasn't as happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's all about how you take what you get. And it's a dog. You're like dealing with a living, breathing animal that you have to train for like 2 years to then step on a field with no collars, no reinforcement. I'm not allowed to tell the dog he's a good boy. I can't say stay. Like, every extra command I give, I'm eating points. Like, it's that's why everything has to be muscle memory, right? But it's very complicated muscle memory compared to the muscle memory of what a pet dog needs, right?
Right, just like Robbie Iyer says, it's like training a working dog is not the same as training dogs.
No.
And people that work with working dogs are like immediately no. They're like,
Yeah.
no, not even close. And we look at integrity, and I was looking at the integrity, and that's what I think you're talking about here, about taking your wins and your losses, with compassion, or with just being integrity, I guess. It'd be with honor, with strength, without having to react to that, right? The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness, that state of being whole and undivided, the condition of being unified, unimpaired, or sound in construction. Now, the cool thing about the origin of the integer, which is the root of integrity, means intact.
Mm.
So it's Latin for intact. And so I like that. I like that it's like,
Yeah.
you're whole, you're intact, you're put together, you have, and it goes back to that understanding, right, of who you are. And yeah, this is cool, man. But
Yeah.
I want to do. I definitely want to tap you in the future for more of these conversations. I enjoy
Please,
you, dude.
can we? I have to
Absolutely.
go back to. I got to go to club, because even though we trialed last weekend, we got a trial this weekend coming up. So we got to get to training. But please, if we could do this again, I'd really enjoy it.
Well, thank you, man. And how do people find you if they want to work with you, or if they want any more information about what you do, or if they're in the Long Island area or New York or even on the East Coast, they want to work with you?
The easiest way to find me is Instagram. Katz Knows Dogs. KATZKNOWSDOGS.
Love that.
And that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'm obviously also on Facebook, and email katsknowsdogs@gmail.com. And I don't have a website, only because I'm already too busy with everything that I do. And if I have a website and I don't get back to people, I'm an asshole, right? Because like, I hate it when people don't respond to you. But when, like, literally the hard part, when we were originally setting this up, I said I'd love to do this online, but I also love to do it in person, because the hardest part for me is that my phone never stops beeping. Right. So like, literally, and I just had a video on Instagram go viral, not for anything I did training wise. It was a video of a Doberman puppy doing scent tubes, which was an awesome video, but everyone was upset that I personally cut the dog's ears off, like, which I did not. I am not a vet, and I was just trying to teach the dog how to detect. But
shame on you.
Like, but
with your teeth, you ripped them up with your teeth.
I'm coming up on like 12 million views on this video. So my phone just like never stops beeping. And I love being in person with someone. I love being able to like not only make eye contact, like being able to make eye contact in person. So maybe one day we could also do it in person. I've never been to Washington, and I like to eat.
Dude, I got a huge property here, man. If you ever want to do a PSA, anything here, I'm sure I got a property that would be perfect for it, man. And we can,
awesome.
I'd love to do that, because I just watching this on YouTube. If I could have it on my property, like, able to, that's I'm all about that. So let's chat about that. Now, the other thing too that I want to mention before we go, you guys, like, this is something separate, but if you like what I do, consider supporting me at patreon.com. I have some Patreon supporters, and I've been slacking a little bit on my Patreon, so sorry, you guys. I'll get back to it. But if you like this, consider supporting me there, so I can travel to Long Island and be there with John, with maybe some video crew, and do this interview live. And also I have I just posted up for Firepaw slap mills. I have
we love Firepaws.
Yeah, George, I have a affiliate link. If you guys want a Firepaw for you, check out the affiliate link that I have. I'm actually got the little savings account over there with George at Firepaw to get me a couple more slap mills here.
Nice. I've never owned one, but I have a lot of friends that have them.
Oh, dude.
And for the price, like, I've had dog trotters.
Okay.
But to me, it's comparable, and half the price or less.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
They're really good quality mills.
Okay.
And they're not as expensive as some of the other mills.
Well, and it's also shipping across half the world too.
Well, that's the hard part. It's a big, heavy thing. But
I would love to find out more about that too. But dude, slap mills are, I think, like, I've started to get them for my pet dog people, dude, and they love them. Like in Philly, I got a couple of clients in Philly that I went and trained their dogs on the slap mills, and not only is it's like a little Skinner box. It's just that dog space where they're fed, and especially in hard winters, if we need a steam vent for that dog, those slap mills are amazing. So I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
Thank you, dude.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this, and I'm happy we got to do it.
I can't wait to meet you, man. I think that I can't wait to meet you and cook some food with you and just hang out with you for a few days and really, really get into the dog stuff. And actually, just stay right there, man. I'll talk to you in the studio here, but we'll say goodbye to everybody here. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
Check out John on YouTube. John, Katz. What is it again?
Katz Knows Dogs.
Katz Knows Dogs.